What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, coming at you, broadcasting, recording, whatever it is, from a top secret, unrevealed location. That one, of course, will be revealed later this week, or at least hopefully it's later this week, when we get, when the last little bit of the setup upgrade arrives. And then we've got a full walkthrough, we've got a full reveal, and then we're back to business as usual. But anyway, in the meantime, I want to put out a little something I find kind of interesting, and it's kind of dawned on me fairly recently, but it actually stems back a few years if you go back and look at the evidence properly. Now, what am I talking about? Well, if you go back the last couple of years from the E3 presentations, from all sorts of different shows, all sorts of everything, you have Sony. Sony, of course, are showing off several games over these last few years, some of which have launched, some of which they've showed off multiple times, but still haven't even been given a release date, a general idea, or more importantly, even a platform. Now, what do I mean? Let's look at some of the games that they did show off. Some of them, you've got God of War 4. Some of the rest of them, you have Detroit Become Human. And of course, you've got Spider-Man. These games, all massively critically acclaimed, have released, done well, been much loved by whoever it is. But there's also a few other games that they've showed off again and again. They come and go again and again. And of course, these games are still vaporware. And despite seeing these games multiple times over several different years, with Sony announcing that they're going to not be present at E3 of 2019, the biggest gaming showcase of the year, well, that brings up another question. What if we're still not going to see these games anytime soon? For those of you who are wondering about what games I'm talking about in specific, we're looking at games like Ghost of Tsushima, the walking simulator that is Kojima's Death Stranding, and The Last of Us Part 2. One of which I'm actually interested in, one of which I have zero interest in, and one of which I am exceptionally hesitant and cautious about. Those games, of course, in whatever order you want to take them. I don't care about Ghost of Tsushima at all. I'm extremely hesitant and questionable about Death Stranding, mainly because Kojima hasn't made a good game in nearly 15 years at this point, and everything we have seen for this game looks pretty damn bad. Not from a visual standpoint, but from everything else. And the one game I am hyped for and I am looking forward to, The Last of Us Part 2. Now, of course, we've seen all these games. Usually, people want to show off their games. People want to let you know about their games, when they're coming out and whatnot. Let me bring you down an alternate path of thinking for the moment. Let's look at the consoles we have now, the PS4 and the Xbox One. We're not going to look at the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro because we're just really looking at the actual launch date, the proper deal on these. So we're going all the way back to the end of 2013. So these consoles, I was going to say these games, these consoles by, let's say, the end of this year, because for all intents and purposes, this year, we're not going to have new consoles. That could change come E3 this year or come whatever other announcement. But let's be real. Chances are we're not getting a new Xbox this year. And chances are we're not getting a PS5 this year. But if Sony are skipping the biggest show of the year, presumably because they don't really have anything proper to show off, could this essentially mean that the games in question, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us Part 2, could they potentially be PS5 games, or at least cross-gen launches? Because I think it's reasonable to assume that the new consoles will probably be here in 2020. Maybe 2021, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. 2020 seems realistic, if you ask me. And unless they have some really weird surprise announcements for release dates or whatever it is for any of these games, even one of them would do. It just doesn't look very good in that regard. Now, the three games in question obviously have very high quality graphics, as you'd expect from, say, first party studios on the Sony side. Unfortunately, the same thing can't be said for Nintendo or Microsoft. But you could almost argue they look a bit too good. And when you think about it, if they look a bit too good for PS4, what does that mean? Are they PS5? Are they on PS5 dev kits? Who knows? Maybe one of them will be just a new gen exclusive. But let's face it, at the same time, I think Sony would be a bit stupid to not capitalize on a market almost 100 million strong. Over 90 million PS4s have been sold. I think the exact number is about 94, 96 million. And to not release one of them on a platform like that is a bit silly. However, it would provide a compelling argument to buy a new console at launch. Usually, now I say usually, of course, it's not always the case, but usually the reasons for buying a new console day one or week one or hell, even month one hell, you could even argue almost year one, are usually pretty sparse and pretty lackluster. A big name game like that, any of those, would provide a compelling argument for most people. Personally, I wouldn't give a shit about Ghost of Tsushima if it came out as a new gen exclusive, or even if it came out as a cross-gen game where it was obviously massively improved on the new gen from a both visual as well as performance aspect. And let's look at a little bit of another credence when it comes to a different side of it too. We have The Last of Us, which launched on PS3, right at the end of the PS3 generation, the same year actually that the PS4 launched. And then of course a while later they remastered it on PS4. The game ran at a significantly higher frame rate, one that was actually playable without any significant problems, as well as upgraded visual fidelity and resolution. So when you think about it, because The Last of Us Part 2 looks really good, chances are if that does come to PS4, it's probably going to be a 30 frames per second game, at best. However, if they were to launch it on the next gen as well, you would probably get a higher quality visual output, as well as a significant performance boost, up to 60 frames per second, which I know would be my preferred way to play it, at a higher visual quality and frame rate. Death Stranding, who knows, who kind of cares at this point, but the same principle applies. So overall, we'll end it with this last question. What if these games that they've been showing off are not for the PlayStation 4? Or worst comes to worst, or being optimistic or pessimistic or cynical, whichever way you choose to look at it, what if these are designed as cross-gen games? Call of Duty Ghosts, Battlefield 4, when they both launched on all 4 platforms. Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS3 and PS4. So maybe something like that could happen with the new gen as well. It remains to be seen, but let me know in the comment section below what you think. The fact that these games have been in development for so long, but they're now skipping, being absent from whatever the entire next show, that we still have no concrete date or even a hint of a date at this point, or even at the hint of a platform. And of course with the next gen looming most likely ever so close. What do you think is going to be the deal? Do you think they're pretty much guaranteed shoo-ins for the PS4? Pretty much guaranteed shoo-ins for the PS5? Or will there be cross-gen games available on both at the same time or very close to launch? Let me know all that in the comments section below, as well as what you would prefer, which situation you would prefer when it comes to any or all of the games involved. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video. While you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button. Let's get those numbers up to 850 because we have a 100% blind, no hand holding, Dank Souls 3 live stream event. Now let's push the limit up to 1000 and we'll get the fabled game room tour. And while you're at it, why not ring the little notification bell? Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.